have a pen again.
I'll share.
She's always had a pencil right here.
I'll share with you.
The budget must be out of pencils. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't wear my jacket. I just wore the vest. Usually I keep it in my...
Yeah.
This is not my badge number. This is not my badge number.
No, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just came home. He told me he's going to put it in the mail. It's not.
Good evening. I'd like to call this November 28th workshop meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Dangler?
Here.
Mr. Vieira?
Here.
Dr. Vogt?
Here.
Dr. Selly?
Here.
Mrs. Wittes?
Here.
I hereby certify that this meeting has been published in the newspaper in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and posted as required by law.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Turner to please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Several weeks ago, the Planning Board, Master Plan and Zoning Committee met with 2 members of the City Council and the Mayor to go over 3 potential zoning revisions. It was a very good meeting, good interaction between everybody. Input was taken from everybody, and the 3 modifications were presented to the Planning Board at the December 18th meeting of the Planning Board, and unanimously they agreed that these should be presented to the Council for potentially being put into adoption as ordinance revisions. What I have sent you, and I understand the City Clerk also sent you the same thing, was something just to follow along real quick in case there's any questions on those ordinance revisions. Existing page number 1 is looking at the requirements for the R1 zone. And the 2 issues that were being considered for revision in the R1 zone are underlined. One was maximum lot coverage of all structures on site, and the other was principal height of building, which in this case is existing at 2.5 stories, 30 feet. The recommendation that is being made to the Council, if you look at proposed page number 1, is the only change being recommended is that the maximum lot coverage of all structures be increased from 35% to 40%, and that the maximum building height of principal building still remain at 2.5 stories, but be allowed to go from 30 feet maximum height to 35 feet. The reasoning behind this was twofold. One, in what we have seen over the last several years and what's been coming in for zoning permits and applications before the Board of Adjustment for variances, many people are putting a lot more money into their properties to enhance them. And in many cases, what we're seeing in the R1 zone, which if you want to follow along and look at the zoning map that's attached to the back, is the area that's west of the railroad tracks, going east to the ocean, and basically from the area around just to the south of Cedar Avenue southward. It's one of the areas that have the largest land areas and zoning requirements in the city. And what we saw is people are putting in swimming pools, patios, sports courts, and in many cases and building larger houses. And what's happening is people are now being required to gerrymander their desires or go for variances before the Board of Adjustment, which potentially takes away from them putting investment into their properties. We have checked with other towns, and what we have found is the majority of the towns surrounding us in lots of the same size and zoning that they have in those towns, they allow the 40%. So we're looking at this. The other reason for the height requirement requesting to be added is we're finding that people, instead of building what we would consider to be the normal 8 to 9 foot high ceiling to floor height, they're designed to make more of a grand first floor, and they're looking for some areas in their houses to have heights of maybe 15 feet in their first floor areas. And the other thing is, from an architectural standpoint, what people are doing now and what is being designed is a desire to do roof lines that more reflect the style and design of what actually the houses used to be in the Victorian area of the 1800s, meaning they have higher pitches on the roof instead of a lower, flatter roof. So the request here is to allow for the increase in the height and the increase of the lot coverage. I don't know if you want me to stop, if there's any questions concerning this, or should I just go on to the next one?
You can continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next one is listed as sheet 1A, and it's existing for the R2 zone. We looked at this also for the increasing the building height and also increasing the lot coverage. However, the desire from the meeting from the planning board members and the city council members and the mayor were that we do not increase the height of the buildings, but we do allow for the increase of lot coverage based upon the same reasons that I gave for the R1 zone. Sheet number 2, listed as 2, existing is, there's a definition.
Hey, Carl, I don't want to get off there for a second. So what was the reason for not, I understood all the reasons why you're going to increase it in the height in R1. Why not R2? Is it because it just doesn't fit
the lots are slightly smaller.
Slightly smaller,
And
okay.
the feeling was that because of them being smaller, with raising the height of the building, it might infringe upon the quality of life of the neighbors at this point.
Perfect sense.
That may be re-examined in the future if we see this works out okay, but at this time, we just didn't want to do it across the board.
Very good.
Okay. In number 2 was the existing definition of a tattoo parlor is any establishment engaged in the application to the human skin of permanent body art or makeup. And the request is to change this, or the proposed is to change the definition from tattoo parlor to read any establishment whose primary business is the application to the human skin of permanent body art or makeup. And in addition to this, we also would like to add to the definition, in addition, any establishment that may require a state of New Jersey tattoo license to operate shall not be considered a tattoo parlor, provided that not more than 5% of the total floor area of the establishment is dedicated for the application to the human skin of permanent body art or makeup. The reason for this differentiation is we have actually found several places in the city that technically need a tattoo license and fall under the realm of being called a tattoo parlor, but they're not tattoo parlors. They're places that deal with permanent eyebrows, permanent makeup, and we actually have a zoning permit that's pending for a firm that wants to do permanent eyebrows and hair for people who are cancer survivors. And technically, since it falls under, from a zoning standpoint, the tattoo zone ordinance requirement, the way it's written, it's a non-permitted use in certain areas of the city. So we would like to amend this so that those places who are not a full-scale tattoo parlor but provide a service, such as I mentioned, would be allowed to operate and apply through the process of just getting a zoning permit.
Is tattoo license the right, is that what the state license says, or is
According
it?
to the health department, it's one license for all of this.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is that the correct name of it, though? Is that just what they call it, or isn't it
That's
not
what
body
I've
art?
been told it's called.
Oh, okay.
It may have a different technical name from the
Yeah.
state.
Yeah, we should cite whatever it is in
Okay.
the technical name.
And the last thing is, number 3, is dealing with the West End overlay zone or the WEDO district, adding one section, which would be a section F to the existing ordinance, which would read, institutional uses may utilize up to 35% of the basement area of the building for storage and or accessory uses connected with the operation or function of the institutional use. And the reason for this is when we were doing the original overlay zone, if you're familiar with that, we were in the process of dealing with both the fire in West End that took out several buildings on Brighton Avenue. We're also dealing with the fact that the Board of Education was in the process of selling the West End school. And we also had a pending application that went before the Board of Adjustment, was denied, and then going through litigation concerning the Chabad. The original design of the Chabad was basically an institutional use that did not have anything of a commercial use or have anything that would reflect anything that we desired for the West End area, which was major commercial uses. In working through the ordinances, the main concern during the time of the litigation and what was worked out with the court was that, and what the city's desires were, that we were to ensure that there were commercial uses on the first floor, on the streetscape. We were so concerned with that we forgot to address anything to deal with the basement use. And what became evident is that, as any church or synagogue has, they use the basement for something, whether it's storage, whether it's for AA meetings, Boy Scouts, clubs. I know of churches that have model railroad clubs in their basement. So when we looked at this and we looked at the size of the building and what they were doing there and their needs, and the fact that as it was being arranged, each store was going to have a basement that was approximately 9,000 square feet in area, that was extremely large, and looking at the needs of the there right now, the desire was to allow them at least 35% of the basement to be used for whatever they want to do it, as long as it is in conjunction as an accessory use to the requirements of the institutional use that would be allowed there. And this would include if hallways, any access ways, anything like that. So.
Any questions?
No, so these are used in the basements, they would have proper access in and out of the fire exits?
Yes.
Okay.
And in discussing this with the fire marshal and the building inspector, the reason why it was increased to 35% from a smaller percentage was to accommodate the access ways and all of those sort of things that we would require them to have.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
And the next item is review of the agenda. Are there any questions?
I just have one question, and I suspect I'm probably missing something here, but it's on Resolution 262-18, and it's the dates on it, because it looks like it's a period of January 1, 2018 to December 31, 2018.
Is that 262, with Monmouth Beach?
262.
Yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
It's supposed to be January 1 of 18 to December 31st of 18.
Apparently, the resolution was not done.
Okay.
So it does refer to this year, yes.
Why are we doing it now? Okay, good.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope, that was
No?
it.
Okay, then I need a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I need a motion to adopt a resolution to go into executive session for the following items: contract negotiations, Long Branch Partners, Chandler Maps property.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Dangler?
Yes.
Mr. Viera?
Yes.
Dr. Vogt?
Yes.
Dr. Selly?
Yes.
Mrs. Wittes?
Yes.